Try explaining a wagon wheel to someone who's never held one. Not the biscuit and marshmallow, not the chocolate coating, the size of it, the weight in your small hand, how it filled your entire palm, how the wrapper seemed enormous, how eating one at the end of the week meant you'd survived another 5 days of school. They'll nod. They might even try one from the shop today. But they'll never understand what you're actually describing. This isn't about British foods that changed. It's about the foods your children and grandchildren will never truly grasp. Not because they weren't there, but because the Britain that gave those foods meaning is gone. The corner shops, the Saturday rituals, the playground currencies, the Sunday traditions. You can describe these foods perfectly. Every flavor, every texture, every detail. But you can't make them feel what you felt. And that gap, that unbridgeable distance between your memory and their reality, is what this is really about. Some foods weren't just about taste. They came with ceremonies, small rituals that turned eating into an event. And when those rituals disappeared, the food became just food. Terry's chocolate orange arrived at Christmas. In stockings, in Secret Santa gifts, in the hands of relatives who turned up on Christmas afternoon. But the chocolate itself was only half the story. The ritual mattered more. Smarties came in tubes. Cardboard tubes with plastic caps that children treated like treasure. You'd shake the tube and hear them rattle. Pop the cap and it would fly across the room. Pour the last few into your palm and try not to drop a single one. When you finished, the tube became a rocket, a telescope, a container for other small things. The empty tubes lasted longer than the sweets. Then the tubes vanished. Boxes arrived instead. Neater, easier to stack on shelves, better for supermarkets. The Smarties themselves barely changed, but the experience did. Your children can eat Smarties. They'll never play with the tube afterward. They'll never understand why that mattered. Curly Whirly wasn't just chocolate and caramel. It was a test. How long could you make it last? You stretched it, bit small pieces, tried to ration it across an entire afternoon. The lattice structure meant you could break off sections, share them, trade them. Eating a Curly Whirly slowly was a point of pride. Now everything is bite-sized, snack-portioned, designed for quick consumption. The idea of making a 10-pence bar of chocolate last an hour seems strange. But you remember. You remember the discipline, the game of it. Your kids won't. Saturday had its own foods, things you only did, only ate, only experienced on that one day. And those foods marked time in a way your children will never quite grasp. Woolworths meant pick and mix. Rows of clear plastic bins filled with sweets you could choose yourself. Flying saucers, cola bottles, fizzy dummy, chocolate mice, foam shrimps. You held a white paper bag, pointed at what you wanted, watched the assistant scoop it in. Then came the scale, the moment of truth. Sometimes you'd gone over and had to put some back. That small shame, that negotiation, the weight of the bag in your hand afterward felt earned. Woolworths is gone. Pick and mix exists in other shops, but it's not the same. The ritual of Saturday morning, the specific route through town, the Woolworths smell. Your children buy sweets in packets, pre-weighed, pre-chosen, no decisions, no risk. They'll never understand the power of pointing at a bin and saying more of those. Wimpy was where you went for a burger. Before McDonald's, before Burger King, Wimpy was America in your mouth. You sat at a table. Someone brought the food to you. The burger came on a plate with chips and a little flag stuck in the top. It felt posh. It felt like an occasion. Going to Wimpy on a Saturday was a treat you talked about all week. Most Wimpys are gone now. The few that remain feel like museums. Your children eat burgers in their laps, in cars walking down the street. The idea of sitting at a table, being served a burger on a plate, seems quaint to them. But to you, that was the future. That was modern life arriving in your town. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper, the grease soaking through, the ink smudging onto the batter, the smell of vinegar mixing with newsprint. You carried it home, the parcel warm in your hands, and ate straight from the paper. No plates, no fuss. It was illegal to wrap food in newspaper by the time you were older. Health rules, ink contamination, regulations. Now fish and chips come in white paper or polystyrene boxes. Clean, safe, sterile. Your children will never taste that specific combination of chip, vinegar, and newspaper ink. And you can't explain why that made it better. It just did. Sunday had a rhythm. School tomorrow. One last bit of freedom. And Sunday tea meant specific foods that marked the end of the weekend. Angel Delight turned powder and milk into something that felt like magic. You whisked it in a bowl, watching it thicken and change color. Strawberry pink, butterscotch yellow, chocolate brown. The texture, light and mousse-like, felt sophisticated. Eating Angel Delight meant you'd helped make it, and that mattered. Today, desserts come ready-made in pots, perfectly smooth, professionally finished. No whisking, no waiting, no anticipation. Your children will never understand that the making was half the joy. Vesta curries came in boxes with packets inside. Rice, sauce, even crispy noodles to sprinkle on top. This was exotic food, foreign food, brought into ordinary British kitchens. You followed the instructions carefully. Boil this, mix that, wait exactly 5 minutes. The smell filled the house. Something different. Something that felt like travel even though you'd never left Britain. By the time your children arrived, curry wasn't exotic. It was a Friday night takeaway. Vesta curries seem almost laughable now, but they represented something. The idea that the world was bigger than your street, that other flavors existed. Your children grew up with that knowledge. You had to discover it in a box. Findus crispy pancakes sizzled in the pan, the outside crisping, the inside a mystery until you bit in. Minced beef, cheese and bacon, chicken and sweet corn. The filling was always too hot, always burned your mouth slightly. But Sunday tea meant crispy pancakes, baked beans, and maybe chips if your mum had energy left. Simple, fast, reliable. The sound of them frying meant the weekend was ending. School uniforms would be laid out soon. The week was coming. Today your children eat meals with names you don't recognize. They talk about flavors you've never tried. The simplicity of a crispy pancake seems almost primitive. But you remember how good it tasted, how it marked time. Some foods had value beyond eating. In school playgrounds, certain snacks meant status, and the rules of that economy are something your children will never navigate. These foods didn't just change recipes when companies bought them, sold them, merged them, moved them. They changed purpose. A wagon wheel isn't smaller because they made it smaller, though they did. It's smaller because childhood is smaller. Because wonder is rarer. Because nothing is special when everything is available. Your children will never understand these foods. Not because they're not intelligent. Not because they don't care. But because the Britain that made them matter was already fading when you were young. And now it's disappeared completely. The corner shops are Tesco Express. The Wimpy is Costa. The Saturday ritual is online shopping. The playground currencies are digital. You're describing a country that existed in the gaps between things. In the space before, everything became convenient, efficient, optimized. And those gaps, those spaces, are where these foods actually lived. What food can't you explain to your children? Not just the name or the flavor, the feeling of it, the ritual around it, the way it marked time or built friendships or made Saturday different from Tuesday. The thing you can describe perfectly, but can't make them understand. Drop it in the comments below. Because these stories matter. Not because the food was better. Not because the past was superior. But because we're the last generation who remembers.